Okay, I'm working at the Virgin Megastore in Hollywood. Celebrities left and right. Starting to talk to directors, asking people like Tarantino and Soderbergh and Singer where they find their storyboard artists, because I have no clue how any of this works, right? And then Guillermo del Toro comes in, very friendly guy, real easy to talk to about movies and stuff. And I'm telling him how much I like Kronos and stuff, and he's like, I just finished Blade 2, go see Blade 2. And so I go see Blade 2, and the friend I'm with tells me that, he's directing Hellboy next. I thought, oh, that's super cool, because I love that comic. And I think I have 2 weeks left on the job. I just put in my 2 weeks because I'm moving, and Guillermo comes back in. And I've always kept, some sample work under the desk, just in case, just in case somebody wants to see what you're doing, or can tell me if I'm doing it wrong, whatever I can get. And I said to Guillermo, so you're doing Hellboy next? And he's like, yes. And I was like, do you need a storyboard artist? And he gives me one of these sidelong glances, looking me up and down, who's this punk? And I showed him some work. I had some work, and I was like, look, I've done this stuff. I've never done a movie before, but I'm working on it. He was like, I'll give you a week. He promises me he gives me his email and contact information, says I'll give you a week on the movie as a trial period. And then I don't know, 2 or 3 months go by. I've moved, I've been doing all these stupid jobs, and then finally I get to start on Hellboy for a week. And it's really funny because I couldn't find the office. He didn't give me the actual office number. He just gave me the building number of where to go. And I go in this building, and it's just offices, and none of them have any signs that say Hellboy right here, So I'm just wandering around till I finally find it. No, it was another storyboard artist who started the same day as me. It was like, are you looking for the Hellboy offices? And I was like, uh-huh. And then, and then after what was felt like the longest week ever, kind of learning the process, at least Guillermo's process, and what he wanted me to do, and then just drawing as best as I can, just for Guillermo. And then at the end of the week, he said the best thing ever when I kind of timidly came in and said, Guillermo, it's Friday. I don't know if you want me back on Monday. And he was like, I'm chaining you to the fucking desk. You are on all my movies. And, which was great. It felt really great. That last part never happened, but it felt really good. Guillermo moved to Toronto. What are you going to do? Ooh. I don't know what the difference is, honestly. I think a good illustrator tells a perfectly good story with every image.
Like an advertising type artist?
Oh, no, I'm not an advertiser at all. I'm a movie guy.
But you're more concerned about the narrative than you are.
I am way more concerned about the narrative. Oh, I'm inspired by all of it. If you can tell a story through a medium, I want to devour it. You forgot video games in there too. I think that's another important storytelling medium. If I'm viewing something, if I'm taking a story in, then I'm happy. However it is you want to give it to me. Early on, I was most inspired by comics because I thought that's what I really wanted to do. But then I sort of had this love of film that was slowly growing at the same time and sort of took over, after college, when I spent so much time watching all the art house films that would play. It's mostly the visuals, like the way the camera moves through the storytelling is sort of one of the earliest films that really got me excited was City of Lost Children, the Genet film that in Caro. That I saw it in college, and it blew my mind because it was so visually just it hit on all my little brain buttons, all the little bits and pieces of it, but also the way the story was told, the way their camera moves and stuff. get really drawn into that. Yeah, action sequences are hard for me because we've seen them so many times that they kind of need to be done in new ways. You know, if it's done in an exciting new way, I'm all over it. And especially when I can look at it and go, oh, one of us did that. That was us. You know, you can tell when something's been boarded. But yeah, it's all just how you're presenting your narrative to me. I don't have a specific favorite genre. It's just what I'm in the mood for at the time. You know? My favorites are always guys I work with. Like if I work with you and then all of a sudden and we click, you know, and I get to know you and I get to know how you approach filmmaking, it makes me like you more. It makes me want to see more of what you're doing. So it becomes like, yeah, I want to see, I had a really great time with Akiva Schaffer, you know, on Rescue Rangers. I want to see what else he's doing, you know. I had a really good time with Angel and Blue Beetle, so I'm going to want to see what he's doing, you know, down the road.
Interesting.
You know, when I hear about directors I've worked with doing new projects, then I get excited because especially if I enjoyed working with them. Like I said with the Matt Shackman and Star Trek, he did WandaVision, and I loved working with him, and I want to see what else he does, and if I can be a part of it, even better, but I at least want to see what else he's going to bring. So yeah, I guess my favorite directors are ones that I get to know and work with, you know. If I'm having a hard time getting to work, I think I just soldier through it. I don't have a thing. A lot of what we do is, you know, like factory work. You gotta hit some numbers. You gotta hit numbers every day, and I try to just do the same thing, like the same approach every day, just because that's how it is right now. It might be different if I was working at an office and I had a hard time getting started, but if I have a hard time getting started here, I just stay here, and I just work slower. You know, I just like, okay, I'm not going to stress about getting a certain number of frames done this hour. It's early. I'm just going to warm myself up. I could probably warm myself up doing some other kind of sketchy work, but I'll just noodle on the one frame that I have to stare at while I've got something interesting blaring at me from this iPad. And then just kind of soldier through it. And then usually, you know, an hour or so into it, I'm just rolling. Well, as you know, basically we're kind of visualizing the movie ahead of time in drawings, taking the script or scenes from the script and figuring out how to break them down in a way that the director can show others what his intended vision is. It feels like a lot of mind reading. It's a lot of trial and error. Really focusing on storytelling and how we can figure out one of the best ways to shoot this. And I think a lot of people might disagree, but it's really a money-saving tool. You know, a day of shooting costs God knows how much. I know I don't, but I know it's more than I make. And you know, utilizing the storyboards helps plan so much ahead of time, saving gobs of money. The funniest one I've heard is storybook artist. Are you a storybook artist? And I was like, what's a storybook? They just misunderstand what it is. They think I draw kids' books or something, you know? It's like, no. Most people living in LA, most people kind of know what a storyboard is, especially, although they might think we're in animation, because those guys tend to get like opening credit. They get above the line billing for their whatever animated show they're working on. But yeah. That it's easy. The best line I've gotten from producers was, "Work your magic." And I was just like, what does that mean? Just work your magic. It's like, I don't have magic. I have skills that took me years to craft and hone. And now I got to draw all these images, and you want them like tomorrow. You know, there's only enough time and space for what my hand can do. It's not magic. It's hard work, and it's a lot of creativity. It's almost endless creativity, to the point where I feel drained many times at the end of a big sequence. Or it's just like, I can't think anymore because I've given you every brain cell I have, production, to help make your movie run smoother and be cooler and, you know, all that fun stuff. I did a show where I was not brought on to do animatics, but after a certain point, it started blending into that, and it became that. And the crazy part is I really liked it. I really liked the director, and we worked really well together. Like, we just got along, we could just play off of each other. But like, for every shot, you're doing like 3 frames leading up to your key, and then the 3 frames after. And it's just like an intense amount of work that I'm not used to, because I'm not an animator. I was never trained how things are supposed to look when they're when they're in motion. So that gets hard. But I've never really had like I said, I try to keep my work level low stress. You know, I'm very, very happy with that. So, you know, keeping people happy is one of those things that helps with that. You know, if the director, you can get to things that directors want. You don't get that stress. But I do remember one guy being like, "Can you shift the camera about 5 degrees to the left?" And thinking, I don't know what that means. And then I had another director we've both worked for who had to let me go because we just couldn't communicate, you know? Like, the way she would describe sequences weren't in any way that I could imagine them, you know? She was talking in lenses and like a DP would, and I wasn't trained in any of that. I wouldn't know how a DP functions because it's not my job, you know? So I had a rough time with that, and you know, eventually we everything ended up fine later, but you know, it was difficult at the time. Okay, yeah, no, I had an experience recently where I was asked to come up with a scene. I was given the bare bones structure of what this sequence would be, and then they just wanted me to just come up with stuff, right? And I did it very loose, very fast, kind of like a first pass kind of thing. And they gave me a few notes, and I did another version, and I didn't do it like a cleanup pass, but after like 2 versions, they were like, "These are great, thanks." And I was like, no, you can't have these. You can't, no, these aren't for other people to look at yet. The best directors are the ones that are as excited as you are. The guy I'm working for right now, every time I send him a chunk, it's always, yes, all caps, and a text or an email. "These are great!" You know, that's always, you're like, yeah, I can't do any wrong at this point. But, you know, I'm certain I can always do some wrong. Yeah. I find myself working mostly on superhero stuff these days. But that's just the industry, you know. If disaster movies were big, I'd find myself working on more disaster movies, you know. It's just kind of where Hollywood goes, where the where the bigger budgety projects are, it's kind of where you find yourself. You know, sometimes you end up on, you know, it's just like jumping from studio project to studio project mostly, with little, you know, especially with TV streaming now, with TV almost becoming like film. Like there's almost no difference between TV and film anymore in terms of work, you know, the type of work I'm doing. If they would bring back the mid-budget movie, you know, like the $40 million movie, I would love for them to do some genre stuff that's not superheroes. I want to do some horror, you know, I want to do some, you know, just some horror, some creature feature stuff. I would love to do some more creature feature stuff, you know, make more Godzilla movies, come on. You know, one every few years isn't enough. I can't work on any of these. You need to make more so I get a chance to work on one. No, well, if that happens, it's never my fault. No, because I like to plan the entire sequence ahead of time. Like, I'll thumbnail a whole scene, like hundreds of frames, just all little thumbnails, just so I know, just so I have it figured out, just so I have the pacing and all the beats just like hitting right. And then if I get in a hole, like you say, it's because the director was like, no, we're not doing that, we're doing this, you know, and the script has been completely ignored or rewritten without, you know, anybody telling me. And then it's like, yeah, we got to redo this whole thing in 2 days. And then I'm in that hole going, that's not possible. The math doesn't add up. I would say misrepresentation is bad because, you know what? I recommend people for these jobs. And if they screw it up, it feels like it's on me. Yeah, if you can't, you know, prove your chops, you know, like your skills, even just with one frame, you know, like, look, I can do it. I don't know. I think it's just, I think that's where the bad blood, I guess, that production would have with us, you know, was from somebody who screwed the pooch earlier on. You know, somebody who said they were amazing and then just didn't deliver. I think when I get on a show, you know, I talk to the, this is what it's going to look like. I'll show them other work and be like, it's going to look like this, and I can do this, and I can get you stuff. I don't want to say never, but I've never missed a deadline. I don't get like crazy tight like insane deadlines. Usually, they'll just ask me when do you think we'll have, and it's like, oh, like tomorrow. And they're like, oh, great. That's pretty easy. My process is my process. I haven't changed it too much. It's just the tools that I use to do it. It usually starts with me talking to the director about the scene. Yeah. Many times it's just having read the script and we're both on the same kind of script page right there, where I have an idea of what the scene could look like, and I might pitch some of those early ideas to the director while we're talking before anything's been done. Find out if the director wants anything specific themselves, you know, like we need to have this big wide, you know, top shot or whatever at a certain point. Whatever they might want, and incorporate that in. And then I just go off and I thumbnail. And these days I thumbnail twice, almost, if you'd like to see. I figure it out really small on little note cards, you know, and then these are like this big, like super thumbs, just me figuring out blocking and pacing, and then I bring it into a bigger notebook and do thumbnails, bigger thumbnails that become my underdrawings, because then I will blow these up and plop them into my frame template. And then usually, if the director is as smart as I hope they are, we can generally walk through those together, and it's kind of a really fast way to blast through a sequence to figure it what it's supposed to be before I've spent days and days and days making really nice, pretty frames. And then once we've figured that out, I'll go through and start just cranking out frames, all on a Cintiq and Photoshop, just because it's what I'm fastest on. I've tried Procreate, but I'm just too slow. The imposter syndrome is almost omnipresent. When I'm on a job, I feel great. And if I have to turn down a job because I'm already working, I feel twice as great. So I'm like, yes, people do know who I am, and people are at least my name's being passed around. See, I never know what my status within our community of artists is, not amongst each other, but amongst the people that hire us, producers and directors. I always feel like there's a certain number of people that work, it's like a loyalty factor. Some people always work with certain people, and I haven't really had that. Like, a lot of the people that I felt like I would normally work with have moved in, like, just situationally, they've moved out of the country, and it just doesn't work anymore. And so I mostly get nervous, like, after about a week of not working. I finish a job. If I don't have anything set up, I usually enjoy the time off. But after about a week, I'm like, all right, has everybody forgotten about me? Am I still relevant? Can I even get work now? How do I do this again? Yeah, that's the biggest insecurity is that I don't think that my work and name carry me through the course of a career. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas maybe it does, and I'm just stupid, and I don't see it because I'm too close to it, but that's how it always feels. Like, I've never felt like I'm good, I'm covered. This career's got me covered. It's always there's that little tinge of, oh, well, maybe I'm done after this one. That's it. But it never happens. So. Well, we got to go with Hellboy first. I mean, that was like, it was film school. And I got to travel. I got to go to Prague and see what that was like. I got to learn every aspect of our job in like an 8-month period. And I got to work with one of the best directors in the world. And I didn't know how any of the rest of storyboarding worked, like how to get the next job and stuff like that. But Hellboy is still such a high watermark for me that I've never had another experience like it, where I've just felt completely welcomed and just like, you're the new kid, come and come see all the cool stuff, new kid. And I think once I got in the union, I think I had a lot of I just enjoy being in the art department. Not always. Like, I'm pretty much antisocial most of the time, but that's just me being introverted. But I do like being in a group of people and going over sequences together as a group. It's hard to pick like another single show after Hellboy. I've had a lot of shows that I've enjoyed my time on for various reasons. Sometimes it's the art department that I'm working with. Sometimes it's just the director that I'm working with. Sometimes it's just, oh, I got to go to New Orleans on this one. That was cool. but yeah, Hellboy still has to be all the way up at the top. It's a career highlight. It was like, it's, I mean, not to be gross, but it's like shooting your load early, you know. It's just like, well, you know, I got that out of the way, and now the rest is just like normal stuff. Because I remember I had friends when I was working on Hellboy. I had a friend who was like, you know that this isn't what the rest of the business is like. And I was like, nope, got no idea.
It's watching that ship go down across
It's
the room, like, dude.
been a while since I've been in an office to even watch that stuff, man. But I kind of loved that. Well, you know, you kind of put your head down and be like, I'm glad I'm not in the line of fire. But yeah, we've been on some similar movies where we've seen some sites, some targets being placed on other artists. I don't know that they've ever been on me, but you know, I'm pretty invisible and I can hide very well. But I've never actually, I mean, I've never watched it like explode, you know. It was always just like, ooh, I don't want to be anywhere near that, you know. Like where a director is just acting ridiculous for the sake of, like, the pressure's on him or her, and then they're just passing that pressure down onto somebody else, and they pick the storyboard artist because we're spending a hell of a lot of time with them, you know. They have access and they know they can yell at us for things we haven't done. Great big heaping gobs of luck to start with. Talent doesn't hurt. I think if you want to do what we do, I think skill is necessary. I mean, you have to be able to draw, but not just that. You have to be able to draw everything out of your head at the drop of a dime, pretty much. You kind of have to be ready to be able to draw, to be as confident in your own skill, whereas a director can ask you to draw any sequence, and you, if you feel confident that you can pull that off and do that within a normal time frame, I think directors and producers all respond to that kind of success, where they're not constantly giving you revisions because the storyboard artist can't figure it out. You know, I try to make it a point to figure it out as fast as possible with the director, like as early as possible, and then go through so that people are getting work, you know, on time without having to beg for it or demand it. You know, it's just showing up. It's just being a professional, I think, is the best part. You know, if you have the skill to do it and you can treat it professionally, I think people remember that, and that's why you're brought back on other shows later, because they're like, this guy did, you know, an amazing job, and we didn't have to, you know, there was no drama involved. You know, this was all just good stuff. It's all positive stuff. Let's bring it back for another one. You know, I think that's what brings most people back. That's what works best for me. It might not be how everybody else does it, but that seems to have worked in my favor so far.
Thanks so much, Simeon, for sharing your time and your insight. I learned a lot.
Did you now? Bye, everybody. Don't look at me. Am I the guy with the famous origin story? Yeah? What the fuck? No, we're not doing that. I don't think I was, though. I think I just weeded the fuck up. Because now I get the Nug Club,
Yeah.
like, delivered to me once a month. You know, they send me a box.
It's like Fears of the World.
It exactly is that.